Welcome to Build. I'm your host, Ricky Camilleri. She kicked all the ass in the Matrix series as Trinity, and while she may live the ass-kicking to Kristen Ritter in Netflix's Jessica Jones, Carrie-Anne Moss's Jeri Hogarth is still a force to be reckoned with. Let's take a look at a clip from season 2 of Jessica Jones.
Third glass tonight.
Put it on my tab.
You drinking to remember or forget?
Giving a shit won't get you a better tip.
I was feeling sad. Can't help looking back. Highway.
My whole family was killed in a car accident. Someone did horrific experiments on me. And now this super vigilante shit keeps coming at me.
Do you know Captain America?
I want to absorb Ailey's investigations.
You don't want me, you just want to eliminate the competition.
I never take no for an answer.
How rapey of you. Something happened behind these doors. I have 17 years of questions, and they are deep.
Just knowing what was done to you might help you.
We were made here. Me and something else. The only way to find it is to open the door wider.
You were brought back from the dead. The powers were a side effect.
How many others are there? Like me?
Let it go.
There is a killer you cannot control.
I didn't ask for any of this.
Jessica might not want a sidekick, but she needs one.
You're not super. You're a ticking time bomb.
Keep telling me who I am. How dare you? What if facing it makes me worse?
What are you gonna do?
I don't know. Depends on if I can get through this night without losing my shit.
Jessica Jones!
It takes a monster to stop a monster. What did they do to us?
Everybody, please welcome the great Carrie-Anne Moss. Let's hear it. Hey. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me. I dig that song. That song in the trailer.
I like that song, yeah.
Good.
So second season, Jessica Jones, airs today. Happy International Women's Day.
Thank you so much.
Wonderful day to premiere the second season of this show. One thing that I love about second seasons of shows, good shows at least, that can follow up well on the first season, is they tend to dig deeper into the internal lives of their characters. Rather than sort of having a plot that characters revolve around, suddenly tentacles spread out a little bit and we get a little more of the interior lives of characters. And I think your character is dealing with something quite personal this season. What did you think when you got the first scripts and they told you that this was going to be your sort of storyline?
Well, we had the great fortune this season. Melissa Rosenberg sat all of us down individually and told us our character arc, if we wanted to know. Sometimes it's fun just to discover it as you go along. Sometimes, you know.
Have you done that?
Most of the time you don't have a clue. Like for first season, I had no idea what was going to happen. I had a little bit of an idea, but every episode was kind of a, what's going to happen? So I sat down.
I wonder if that's fun though when you're on set and you're kind of like, oh, that's what happens to me. Oh, we're rolling, like.
Yeah, it's kind of I prefer to know, but there is something kind of cool about not knowing too. It makes you have to be very flexible in your process, right? But I was happy to know. I needed to know in this particular instance, and so. She told me my arc from beginning to end, and of course I don't know all the details and the scenes and all of that, but that was helpful to hear about that, and I was surprised because I had really no idea what they were going to offer me in terms of storyline, and ultimately really grateful that I play such a strong, very powerful woman, and yet we get to see her vulnerability, and we get to see in her private moments her pain, and as an actor that's fun to play, to play someone and play all the layers of who they are versus just she's this shark and she's able to just talk to anybody and have that rapport and dominate everything. It was great to have like these moments that were really vulnerable.
I also think you play a very a specific kind of woman that is a part of the conversation right now. I mean, I think all women are part of the conversation right now, but this sort of, this wealthy, somewhat elite woman who's struggling with her ideals and the way that the business world and the way that the sort of cruel world actually works. What is it like to sort of work with a character like that and think about that?
Well, I really see her as someone, she has a line in, I don't remember what episode, where she says, you know, all I will leave behind is my name on that door. And she's, you know, her surge to the top hasn't come, she doesn't have people. She doesn't have relationships. She doesn't have she doesn't have that. She's alone, and she's powerful, and she's got money, and she's got strength, and she's got power, but in the end, it can't help her with what she ends up dealing with during this season. So that's always interesting because that's the truth, right? It's like, really, what do we have in our lives? You know, you can feel like you're the most powerful person and you're strong and stuff, but when life hits you, you have to deal with it no matter how much money you got, no matter what. It's like, doesn't really matter. It's like levels everything.
Can we talk about what she's dealing with in this season yet?
I don't know.
mean, it premiered this morning.
No idea. I have no idea.
Can we just say she's say the M word?
She's dealing with a health issue.
There we go.
She's dealing with a health issue. And her health issue is just really kind of massive and sort of like, in the first season, with Jessica Jones, first season, and Kilgrave, you know, he has this mind control, and she believes he has the mind control. She ends up getting in a thing with him. She doesn't really think it couldn't work on her, right? She's too powerful. It wouldn't happen. And
she's omnipotent.
Yeah, and I think she feels that way about everything. Like, sickness couldn't happen to her. Hardship couldn't happen to her, and yet she has to face that. And ultimately, she faces it, like, by herself, because she doesn't really have anybody. Wow. Yeah, you know, and she has intimacy with Jessica, kind of, but she's pretty low.
Very guarded.
Guarded, but that's who she goes to. Yeah.
What's it like playing a character like that? I mean, do you end up? I mean, I think for some of the characters in the show, it's very much a fantasy experience. But with an arc like that, that's very grounded in reality and how we feel about ourselves and the way that we think about our own health.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, I loved having an opportunity to have these vulnerable private moments, you know, because I always feel like playing her is tricky. And it's not tricky, but it's like she's always going to be who she is. She can't suddenly become like a different person just because she's grappling with this. She still is who she is. So I always felt like she's always covering, looking like she has it all together. But in her private moments, it's when you can see like that she's unraveling and completely falling apart. And so I think we can all relate to that. You know, if we're having a really terrible day, like, do we want everyone to know? No, we throw ourselves together and we put our chins up and we carry on and try to, you know, but maybe with our closest people. How are you? You know, right? But you know, what if you don't have anybody like that? So yeah, I loved playing her. This season was really, there's a lot of freedom in playing her. There's no right way to play what she's going through, because everybody would deal with what she's dealing with differently. So every day I wasn't even sure how I was going to deal with it.
It must be fun for you as well. I mean, I think you've since The Matrix, you've played a fair amount of kind of like powerful, badass women. It must be fun to play one that's kind of also is that, but kind of unraveling a little bit because of this. The sort of tough exterior has to kind of melt away.
Yeah. I mean, I always tend to play strong women, which is cool, and I really love that. I mean, it's kind of my archetype, if you were to think of in terms of that. Like, I kind of represent that. Not represent that, but you know, I can't, you know, play like a wallflower. Like I mean, maybe with really good makeup, and I don't know. You know, everyone has an energy, right? And so yeah, it's interesting. I try not to intellectualize too much of how I do and what I do. As soon as I start doing that, it's like you get self-conscious about it.
Right.
But
and don't think back upon the characters you played and how they inform your characters now. Just try to look at them individually.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Are you kidding? I can barely remember last week, let alone like, you know what I mean? Like got so much coming at me that I often go, oh yeah, I forgot. I did that. I was in that movie.
Wait, do you really do that?
Kind of. Like, I don't...
Well, that's true, because sometimes a movie is like a week, It's like,
Yeah.
you were in Memento, which is a classic film, but like, how
It
many
was
days?
like 8 days.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was such an incredible experience.
Oh, never mind. That was one of the ones that you
I do
remember very deeply.
I do remember. Well, not really deeply. I have to go back, I have 3 kids. It's like, my brain cells are deteriorating at a very fast pace with my life. But no, I look back and think pretty fondly about that experience.
That was Nolan, right?
Mm-hmm.
Was there a sense while you were working with him that this was a person who was...
Yeah. Yeah, he's got like a lot of class.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he's got a lot of class and a lot of kindness and a lot of sure, he's very confident, but in a very grounded way, and really just set the tone for us just to play, which is unusual.
Especially for a movie like that, where you would imagine the writer-director is going to be incredibly protective and intense.
No, it was
because it's
completely unfolding as we were doing it. Wow. Yeah, I never had that experience. It's like being an actor between action and cut. I can count on one hand how many times I felt like I've had that blissful moment that you often have on stage. But there's so many things happening. You notice the camera, and you're constantly reminded that you're not actually in that world. You have to really go in to believe that it's actually happening. And that's one movie where that was effortless to do, and that's a big testament to him and the environment that he created on that set.
So how do you, if you don't mind, just one more question about that, and maybe it's too vague. How does one create that environment?
I don't know, but I notice it now.
Kind of like an ethereal thing?
I don't know. I mean, it's something that I definitely wasn't intellectualizing at the time. Mm-hmm. But I feel like it's a rare thing because so much technical stuff goes into making movies and television, and you'll have like the sound guy with the thing right there, and you're like have to pretend, and you're
crying, and he's like, sorry.
Right there, this, the guys holding whatever, or like texting while you're doing your emotional scene, and you're, you know what I mean? It's
Does that happen?
Sure. And,
Do you ever, I mean, there's the great, which I've always sort of supported 100%, the great Christian Bale rant from a number of years ago where, someone was walking around on set and he got really upset. I remember hearing that and being like, well, the guy was like walking in his eye line.
It's really stressful.
Yeah.
It can be really stressful. And, your crew is like, our crew, all the crews I've ever worked with are amazing. And, you just say, hey, can you not do that? And people go, oh, yeah. Nobody's trying to be a jerk, but, it can be very distracting. Yeah.
Well,
sure.
I guess one thing that people don't know about acting if they don't do it is that even the simplest of things can be wildly vulnerable because if you fail, there's no greater feeling of failure than failing at acting, I think, because you are surrounded by people. And there is that moment of like, oh.
Well, it's interesting. Probably one of the most important things for me when I'm acting or when I'm doing a job is I really reach out to the crew to create an environment where I don't feel afraid to fail. Yeah, absolutely. And so that's the first thing, I know not everyone works that way, but it's really important to me to feel supported.
You want everyone on your side.
Yeah, and I want to feel like I can make mistakes. And yet if I feel isolated and I need to feel like I'm on a team. Yep. And that team is supporting me and that they care about me and that I care about them. And then I'm able to be free. And it's probably the most important, one of the most important aspects of when I work is that, creating that energy.
Because if you feel isolated, that's when, not you, but I mean, if a person feels isolated, that's when you start kind of lashing out and not really
honestly, I can
humanizing people.
Yeah, I honestly can say I've never felt that. Yeah. I've never felt isolated. It takes a second to feel completely supported by a crew because that's what they do. So they're open to that when an actor. I don't have to say anything. It's just my energy, And it makes the world of difference. I always think of being an actor like a tire with all the different spokes, like in a bicycle, and the craft service person and the medic and the DP and the director and the producers and the writer and me and the other actors. We're all equal. I think sometimes it can feel like the actor is it, but we're all equal. None of it can get done unless we're all functioning.
If the focus doesn't get pulled on your shot, then the shot looks bad.
Yeah,
Or
the sound's not good, it's not gonna work. I mean, all those layers of expertise and craftsmanship make the end product so amazing.
Speaking of crew, I just want to tell my crew that you guys are great. Thank you so much for everything that you do.
Yay!
I am not an actor, but we should
You
just say
feel that
thank
though,
you.
right? You feel supported.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Sometimes.
You need it.
Guys? No, of course I do. Of course I do. She was actually walking in my eye line as we were talking just to try to joke around a little bit.
Was she really?
Yeah.
Were you texting as well? No. She was.
Yeah, she was texting. She was.
She's taking a selfie. That's even worse. Oh my gosh.
You have this wonderful website that I was looking at today. It's not a website. I mean, it's a company of yours. It's called Annapurna.
It's a website.
Oh, it's a website.
It's kind of like a lifestyle website.
Yeah. And you started about 3 years ago,
Yeah.
you were telling me, when you started sort of noticing that you needed a new way of thinking about things.
Well, I'm a mom, and I have 3 kids, and I was really, really full-on busy with them when they were little, and often felt kind of lonely and isolated parenting, and I don't know, I started to read some people's blogs and was inspired by a few different blogs, and
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you.
Yeah.
Why is, and this is a broad question about motherhood, and I ask it with as much empathy as possible.
Yeah.
What is it about motherhood that feels, I think, isolating in some way? In a way that, like, so many women do it, but I think each woman still feels like the way that it's happening to them is very distinct and individual to them. Does that make sense?
yeah, I think what for me was isolating was, and I dove in like all the way, like every mother does, you know, and but I just you're tired, and you often go days without talking to a grown up, and you're in this magical world of children, and to find other people, other mothers that you can relate to, perhaps like in how you're choosing to think about mothering. Like, for me, the hardest part was finding women who were loving it. Because I didn't want to be around people complaining about the fact their kids weren't sleeping. Right. And even though I was dealing with that, I didn't want to spend my precious time doing that.
Absolutely.
And so for me, it was really like I would like find a mama group, and it would be, oh my God, I'm so tired. And that's true. But that's not how I really wanted to be, like looking at the positive things. And I was just growing so much, and I was learning so much about myself. So I don't know. I mean, you know, your life becomes about other people, your children. And, you know, a lot of the things that I did leading up to that, I no longer did, and I was grateful. I mean, my life really did change completely, and I was grateful for that. You know, I've been working so much, I've been traveling so much. I'm like a people person, so I'm used to being around crews and other actors, and you know, suddenly I was at home by myself, and with 1 baby, 2 babies, 3 babies, and so yeah, so Annapurna Living kind of came out of that, and then. And really realizing some stuff that I was realizing about my life that I wanted to share, because I think living in Los Angeles, as many cliches can be made about Los Angeles, and we can judge it, and I definitely do.
But you're not originally from Los Angeles.
No, I'm Canadian. I'm from Vancouver.
Okay. Love Canada.
Yeah, it's such a wonderful place. And it's different in Canada. And that's maybe also a thing that I was feeling. Like in Los Angeles, I can be out and about with my kids, and people don't really take in your kids. Like in Canada, it's like, oh, hi, we talk to each other's children, and I talk to everybody, and I just felt like it's different. It's a little bit different. But what was I saying again? I can't remember. See?
You were talking about when you sort of started developing the website.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And so then I just started to, you know, being in Los Angeles and having exposure to a lot of different ways of thinking, different ideas around consciousness, and different ways of, you know, yoga, meditation, all those kinds of things that are quintessentially Los Angeles. I wanted to share that with maybe women that might live somewhere where they have no exposure to that, where they don't have anyone that maybe they could talk to about thinking differently. And And so I just started to write. My motto of my site is that it's very simple and very sincere. I give tools for elevating your life through simple tools. And I knew that as a mother, like I didn't want to have to leave my kids to feel like I was filling myself up with nourishment, not food, like thinking. I didn't want to go like away. I needed to find, how can I do that while I'm in my life? How can I, I'm being challenged. We're being challenged by being, growing and our kids and all these different things.
It's finding ways to understand this life in a different way. So
Yeah.
you're still connected, but you're
Completely.
also
It's all about connection.
you're
All
also
about
engaging.
connecting to yourself. So then you can connect authentically with the people in your life. And so it started that way, and it grew into something else, actually. I teach meditation on there, simple meditation to people. I think that one of the things that we're all dealing with, men and women, is our nervous systems are completely in overdrive, and it can cause you to get sick and cause you to feel anxiety and stress. And so I'm very committed to calming my nervous system down because I run really high. I used to really pride myself on how much I could get done by 9 o'clock every morning. And now I really pat myself on the back for taking a break because I didn't know how to do that. And just really bringing in ways of thinking, because I think that change starts with how we think. And if we can shift our minds to see things differently, then we can find new ways. And I was lying in bed at night worrying about the environment, worrying about politics, worrying about all the things we're all worried about when my kids were littler. And I thought, I'm not going to make it. I'm not going to be the woman I want to be worried like this. So how do you, show up with your heart open and keep moving forward when there's a lot of crap out there to really take you down? And I was like, I will not go down. So I'm going to find ways to elevate in my life, and I'm going to share that with anyone who wants to be inspired in that way. So that's the conversation that I have on my website.
Do you still worry about those things, or do you just find ways to deal with those worries?
I worry so much less. I was worrying and not even aware that I was worrying. I was so enmeshed with the worry that I couldn't even see that the worry was not even real, that it was just kind of conditioning. And if we listen to the news and we, if we listen to what's all that's coming at us, we will just get knotted up. And yet if we go, okay, what's happening right now for me? Okay, right now, I'm, and then you can actually be of use. You can actually be helpful, because someone riddled with worry and riddled with stress and anxiety actually isn't very helpful. But someone who's grounded and can see the clear picture, because that's another thing that I think, that I share a lot about, is how do we have the wisdom to discern the information that we have? How do we? And I think it starts with being deeply connected to yourself so that you know who you are and what you're about. And then when the information comes to you, you can't get conned quite as easily when you're, I would say grounded women cannot be manipulated. And my website is aimed at women. Sorry, guys. But it's I want to really inspire other women to find their grounding within themselves so that they can go out and be the change they want to be the difference they want to be, have lives that are just nourishing from the inside out. Because I have had in my career everything I ever dreamed of, and I'll tell you what, it's it's not that great if you're not grounded and have your crap together, I'm really fortunate because I've always been pretty grounded, maybe with the worry and all that, but
Well, like you said, in terms of success or luck in a career, the Matrix series alone is what an actor or an actress, absolutely dreams of. That's a franchise. That is something that you can now, following those movies, you can go on and keep acting or stop acting or do the projects that you really want to do after that. And then I imagine you still felt maybe some of that worry, though?
Well, I was just really clear that what was important to me was who I was, inside, not what other people thought of me, and my relationships, and my relationship to myself, and my relationship with the people that I love. Because, you know, success is fleeting. And, you know, who are you going to be if people aren't, like, thinking your movie's, like, great? Yeah. Like, what happens when they think the next one sucks? You know, if you know, it's so much like this that, and it can be hard on a soul level. If you're, you know, artists and actors are already so sensitive anyway. It's like you got to have some ability to navigate that without taking it on and without being completely shut off. So it's been interesting. I think acting is being an actor and being in Hollywood, and like, it's definitely asked me to stretch inwardly through my inner journey. And I'm grateful for that.
Let's get some questions from our audience. Who's the question?
Hi, I'm super excited to binge season 2 tonight. Something I really like about the show is how real everyone is in it. It's not just a caricature. Like, Jessica doesn't just get over her PTSD, and there are times you love Hogarth for how she defends Jessica, and there are other times you don't like her for some of her other actions. I wanted to ask you if that's something that attracted you to this role, and kind of what's been your favorite part about being a part of Jessica Jones overall.
Yeah, and did you notice, like, I'm here, like, holding this while you're talking, and then I looked at him.
You were ready. You were, like,
I was ready.
Ready to pounce.
I was just ready to talk. Yeah, I love you know, I think one of the things that attracted me the most was Melissa Rosenberg, who is our showrunner. So she writes, you know, she's the head of it. And she writes characters that are multi-layered and have dimension, and you know, just because you're a tough woman doesn't mean you don't have. All of us are more than one thing, and I really loved that. And I think season 2 even shows that more with all of the characters. You get to really see all of them and all of the complexity of them. That really starts at the top. Always is with the writing. Everything's always starts with the writing.
And where did Rosenberg come from? Was she on, what shows was she doing before?
She did Dexter.
Right, that's right, Dexter.
And
yeah.
she did the series, big movie series, Twilight.
Oh, that little thing. Yeah, I didn't really. Right. Next question, right here.
Hey, hi. How
Hi.
you doing? You've kind of answered my question anyway.
So then why? No,
yeah,
sorry.
so I'll do it. I'll speak to you anyways.
Look
Annapurna Living.
see, I'm doing it again. I feel like
Okay.
such a loser.
You want so badly to talk to that microphone.
So with Annapurna Living, I've seen some of the videos that you've posted, and they're very inspirational, not just for women, but for men also. So what I was going to ask was, you've kind of answered it, but when you kind of look at the meditation, and also you write for the site as well, when you kind of look at the content, how has that helped you navigate your career as an actress? Because you mentioned earlier, you have to have a connection with the crew, and I think the site promotes not only the well-being of women, but having the connection with people. And how has that helped you also balance your career as an actress, being a mother of 3 also? So that was a question.
Yeah. Thank you for looking at it. And you know what I think I love the most about it? When you're an actor, you really are at the mercy of like people hiring you, and you're at the mercy of like other people writing for you, and it's I love it. I love that part. It's a part of me that wants to just do my own thing. And I never like brought in any of my people, like my team, into what I created. They didn't even know I was doing it. Then what are you doing? And then they were like, wow. And because I want it to just authentically be my voice. You know, I write my own stuff. And I share what I want to share. And I completely produce it on my own. You know, I have an assistant that helps me upload it because I'm not very good with that kind of stuff. But that was, it's empowering. And it's empowering to find your voice, because I'm very private in a way as well. I'm very open. Like if you met me at the grocery store, I would be like completely talking your ear off and we'd be best friends. But in terms of like the world of my work, I've been pretty private, you know, about my journey. So I was like figuring out like, how do I step into this space that I feel I want to be in? Like I want to be in leadership in a way, and in being of service actually is the better word. And how do I do that and at the same time not exploit my life? and because I'm not interested in exploiting. And also, how do you do something like that when you're not really? I'm not selling anything. I'm not selling anything. You know, I don't want to sell products that are. I don't. My whole point is that you don't need to buy anything to feel better about yourself. It comes from within you. You know. So it became kind of this tricky thing that I've just loved doing, and so I offer these courses that just give like modern women like simple ways to, you know, elevate their lives through meditation and different things like that. Yeah. Yeah, thank you. And
I think I have time for one more question right here.
Hi.
So first and foremost, I wanted to say I love your outfit. It's very like Matrix-like. It's the way it flows. It's nice. My question was in sort of a two-parter, which was after playing such a like amazing hero as Trinity, over the years, have you been offered any other like strong heroine roles? And for you, are there any other female heroes that you would personally like to play?
Well, you know, after The Matrix came out, I started having kids. And so I did a little bit of work, but I really stayed home for like the first 10, 12 years of being a mom. I worked really rarely. I could afford to because of The Matrix, so I know I'm like really lucky. And I really wanted to. Like, I mean, literally, if you had met me when I had my babies, like I barely let my husband hold them. Okay? I love babies. And I always have. So it was like a no-brainer for me. If I got a job, it was like, you know, I would want to do it, but I'd be in tears. Like, I just can't. But I always thought at the end of my life, am I going to look back and go, God, I really wish I'd done that movie? No, I'm not. I'm going to say, wow, I was there, you know? But I'm also really privileged, and I totally get that. But roles that I'd like to play, I don't know. I'm like, I always say this, and it's sort of kind of, I don't know if it's a good answer or not, but I would hate to limit myself by my limited thinking about what kind of characters to play. I look forward to playing women as I'm aging that are really authentically, you know, women that are aging in a real way, because I think that's important. We women have really not been represented there in a way that we look at, you know, gender equality in the world, in Hollywood. I mean, I just remember, you know, as I've been, you know, coming up in this business, you know, always being so much younger than the men that I'm working opposite, and sometimes being told I'm too old to work with someone who's so much older than me. And it's just, you know, those kinds of things that just kind of can wear you down a little bit, make you go, oh God, really? Like, yuck. So, you know, stepping into aging authentically, with grace and with humanity is like important to me. So I look forward to seeing what like the next phase of my career is, and Trinity was, you know, and I mean, you know, anytime I just tend to wear black a lot. I really don't know if it's really that Trinity, if it's just that it's black.
I love the unintentional exhaustion with which you fielded that. It is. Is it?
I mean, I put on something, you know, the things that I'm attracted, like a long black coat. It looks like Trinity, and I'm like, oh. Can I look like Trinity? Like, well, she's me, I'm her. I mean, you know.
I imagine eventually after the first movie, they wrote a lot of the stuff that, I mean, they kind of knew you and liked what you could do and wrote a lot of great stuff for you, knowing you, essentially. Right? Like a TV show. Would.
Like in the Matrix.
In the Matrix, yeah. Like you say Trinity is you and you are Trinity.
Well, I just mean like, people say, what is similar between you and your character? And I'm like, me? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not like, yes, there are actors that completely lose themselves and you never know. You know, I'm not one of those actors, you know?
Trinity's also not one of those characters as
well.
No, she's the stoic kind of.
Yeah. She's an archetype.
Yeah.
She's a total archetype. And one that I loved playing. And you know, I was just thinking recently how much I want to go back and watch those 3 movies. I haven't seen them since way back when. Just to look at like our current situation. It's like I feel like it's more relevant, you know, now than ever. And I want to almost get I know, you know, different schools study them. different colleges study them, and I want to study them now. I want to get in deep and like understand it, completely pulling that I'm in it. Like I'm interested in it that much from a consciousness perspective, because it remind, you know, the idea of all those babies in the pods powering the society. And I look over at my kid who's like 3 hours in with his iPad on. I'm like, oh no, it's happening in my living room.
Well, powering this also this dystopic world that has sort of melted away, and everybody is like okay with living in the former, the former wealth, and that's how like living in the past, nostalgia for the past, is what powers this sort of like disgusting, horrible mess of a world that they live in.
Yeah, and having this experience in here, like, you know, texting. It's like, you know, when my kids were coming up, like I didn't know how to text. I didn't text at all, but I would not go on the phone. You know, I chose not to go on the phone until they were, you know, as soon as you get on the phone, mom, right? But, you know, it's sort of sneaky. You can text but you're gone. You're not present when you're texting. And I really think about this for like the little kids that are coming up now, the babies that are being parented by completely distracted parents in a way that we've never seen. We do not know the ramifications of that. You know, and I worry about that. Like that keeps me up at night. That's why I meditate. I'm worried about that. I'm worried about, you know, I see kids, little kids, and I'm guilty of it as well. My kids are older, you know, now, but like little kids, you know, like this, and the dad's, you know, or mom is, or the nanny or whatever is on the phone. Yeah. And it's like, you know, talking to your kids is what makes them smart.
Reading to them,
talking to them, listening to them is what gets all those neurons in their brain firing, and we're losing that. I'm not sure how that's gonna work out.
You're gonna have to meditate after this. I drove you down a hole. I'm sorry. But I have to ask, because we were talking about Trinity, and I feel like every interview with you, someone has to ask this question. I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't. There were rumors of Matrix coming back a year ago or something like that. What do you know about that? What kind of?
I don't know anything. It's just a rumor.
That's it, guys. I got nothing. Sorry. I didn't think so. I love Jessica Jones. I love having you here. It's wonderful to see you. Congrats on the second season on Annapurna Living.
Thanks.
Carrie-Anne Moss, everybody. Big round of applause, please.